Two Taliban bombers blowing themselves up close to the Afghan Defense Ministry. Those blasts reportedly coming in rapid succession during late afternoon rush hour, apparently intended to inflict mass casualties as government workers left their offices. A Taliban spokesman on Twitter saying the first attack targeted the Defense Ministry, the second aimed at police.
Meanwhile, the bloodshed in Syria continues after President Obama and Russian President Vladimir Putin failed to reach an agreement on a ceasefire during a meeting on the sidelines of the G20 summit in China. And as the diplomacy drags on, ISIS is digging in, killing dozens in a series of new attacks across the war-torn country. Now, President Obama, though, vowing to press on in search of a deal that ends the fighting.
Given the gaps of trust that exist, that's a tough negotiation, and we haven't yet closed the gaps in a way where we think it would actually work. But my instructions to Secretary Kerry and Mr. Putin's instructions to Mr. Lavrov was to keep working at it over the next several days.
Wladimir Ferris is a Fox News Middle East and terrorism analyst and foreign advisor for Donald Trump. Thank you for being with us on this important day to try to understand, how resolution can come about. So we want to welcome you on this Labor Day and ask you, why can't President Obama and Putin find a solution for Syria? It seems like there is enough common ground to come up with, some kind of a plan.
There is a principle of common ground between the United States and Russia. I mean, these are the two superpowers. They can and should impose, first of all, a ceasefire, then a withdrawal from the cities or areas by these militias or the Assad regime, and then moving towards the political solution. The problem is the alliances that both Russia, but mostly the Obama administration, have been involved in over the past 5 years. We have allies on the ground, including the militias fighting Assad, part of which are jihadists, one of which is actually now terrorist, al-Nusra, that has changed their name. So the Russians and their allies are not accepting that these would be part of the ceasefire, and we cannot put enough pressure on Turkey and on our other allies to let go of this al-Qaeda-linked group.
And what about Russia's ability to step in and, just do something on its own?
Well, first of all, Russia has also another problem of alliances, which is Iran. Iran and their militias in Syria, including Hezbollah, they have a plan of their own. They're not going to listen to exactly what Russia is telling them if the price is the removal of Assad. We have also another problem looming, which is Turkey now is moving inside Syria. It's moved out some of the ISIS positions, but now it's clashing with the Kurds. So this architecture over the past 5-6 years is now producing these problems.
Yeah, do you believe that the U.S. has made a long-term mistake when it comes to Syria? I mean, people are dying, ISIS is spreading, this just can't go on without a deal.
Look, the administration made several serious strategic mistakes. The first one, the most important, was not to finish off the Syria problem in 2011, 2012, while we were still in Iraq, and the Assad regime was completely isolated. We did not. Second mistake was basically when the crisis of the chemical weapons came, and we threatened, and then we didn't do anything about it. And the third mistake, basically, is to ally ourselves with those Muslim Brotherhood militias instead of working with them and moderate Free Syria armies. That policy has to change for us to get results on the ground.
And we've just learned that Russia just launched airstrikes. Just in this last few moments, we're learning that, we have seen that Turkey has made moves against ISIS in the northern Syrian border area. Do you feel like it's a positive move? What kind of repercussions could there be?
The civilians are suffering across Syria, especially in Aleppo and northern Syria. We see it very, very clearly, and the international community is not able to do much. The problem that I see is that the Assad regime backed by Syria is advancing onto those positions. The Turkish army is advancing. A major crisis will be if the Turks and the Assad regime backed by the Russians will clash. That would mean that we would have to interfere immediately on the diplomatic level to stop that next war if it happens.
All right, Wladimir Ferris, thank you so much for being with us today. Always appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
A manhunt for a murder suspect